this episode of Voice of the Sea, we're at the Hāna Limu Festival in Maui, where limu experts and limu lovers from across Hawaii have gathered to share knowledge, observe local limu, and celebrate this culturally and environmentally critical resource. Limu practitioners share their knowledge and help us learn what we can do to sustain and perpetuate native limu in our nearshore waters. We start off talking to Hāna Limu Festival organizers Scott Crawford and Auntie Claudia Kalaola.
Well, we're at the Hāna Limu Festival, and this is the 11th festival. It would be the 11th annual, but we took a couple years off because of the pandemic, and now we're back. The Limu Festival 2022 is back, and we're in the ʻAūamo of Ka'eleku celebrating limu, Hawaiian seaweed.
Can you talk to me about what this festival and learning about limu, sharing knowledge about limu means to the community?
Limu is such an important thing, but it often has been overlooked, or it's culturally important and has very rich traditions, but a lot of people don't really know that much about it and don't realize how important it is. We started the Limu Festival as a way basically just to create that awareness and to celebrate limu, and especially really focusing on the keiki and having interactive booths with interactive educational activities that the kids can get their hands on. They can learn things, and really passing that knowledge and getting the younger generation excited about learning about limu and about just the whole marine environment. And it's so important ecologically because it's the base of the food chain. It's important nutritionally, very important part of the traditional Hawaiian diet, and it's a great sea vegetable that has riches in minerals. And then culturally it's very important and has certain uses like limu kala. I understand there's going to be an effort to dedicate limu kala as the state limu of Hawaii next year, and that's partly because limu kala has also really important cultural significance as well.
For people who are watching this and want to know how they can help to perpetuate limu in cultural ways, limu in the environment, do you have recommendations?
The first thing I would say is get to know the limu in your area. It all starts in our own backyards, and that's what all of this shoreline management efforts are about, is each community has to take responsibility for their own areas. We can't rely on the state or whatever agencies to be able to solve problems for us. The communities, and especially looking towards the people who have generational knowledge of that area, learning from them about the resources, and getting to know what limu is in your own place, and how can we use that limu, and also how can we protect it and be aware of it if there's things that are water quality or sedimentation or these other threats that may be affecting it. If we're not aware of the limu, then we might not notice when it disappears or when it's not healthy. But just by paying attention to it and being aware of it, then we can see whether it's healthy, and we can take steps to make sure that it can stay healthy.
And then I got to go out with you this morning and kind of take a look at some of the limu.
It was a good opportunity to go out with some folks who are very knowledgeable about limu and just look at what's there, see all the different varieties that we have, and talk about how they're used, and what's ono for fixing in what way, and what kind of fish eat them and things like that, and also just looking at the overall habitat, how they interact with the hauʻi and the opi'i, and the other things that are there sharing their environment. As much as I've been involved with limu, I think this is true for a lot of people, is that they know about it on a sort of conceptual way, but it's another thing to really put it into practice and to actually go out and harvest limu and do it in a careful, respectful way, so you're not over harvesting, but you can take something from the sea that is very nutritious and can be an important part of the diet. There's limu people on all the islands. There's people who know their limu in a lot of different communities. If you're really interested in limu and interested in learning more and getting involved, like what I would suggest is connect with the Limu Hui maybe and find like who's the one in your own area, who are the people in your own area. If people want to get involved, there's a lot of ways to support it. It's wise to connect with somebody who's knowledgeable and go out and learn that way, and you can be sure that what you're picking, first off, is you're doing it in a respectful, sustainable way, and then that you're actually picking edible limu.
Right, right. And it also grows in an environment that's pretty wave affected and somewhat definitely physically dangerous.
Right, you have to be safe. Safety first always. It's similar to OPE. They call, the ʻāūamo, the fish of death, because people die harvesting OPE, and limu can be similar. It's in a dangerous environment. So, yep, go with somebody who knows the environment and don't turn your back on the ocean and pay it to makaʻala.
For me, growing up, it was, limu was a thing that was always in our kitchen. There was not a day that went by that my dad didn't have a bowl of limu, curing, soaking. We literally grew up eating it, like a real staple. And in the past years, there's been a decline. And so we just wanted to raise the awareness of limu and how important it is to the habitat, of the nearshore fisheries. It's the food for the herbivores that clean the reef, and it's just the whole cycle,
What are the benefits of eating limu in your diet?
Well, the number one benefit is that it's so ono, My dad had his own special ways of preparing everything, of course, because he was a cook. But when he collected limu kohu, for example, we didn't eat it right away. We cleaned it, then he soaked it with kai, with the ocean water, and literally sat on a counter for 5 days. And at that point, it was so sweet that he would bottle it. We would eat it with everything from scrambled eggs in the morning as a side condiment. When we had stew, it was, part of the stew. And literally everything. Not to mention the raw fish and opihi, it's like so part of our diet. Waiʻole was also another limu that was very plentiful when we grew up. And we'd pick it like in bags, bring it home, and we literally pickle it with shoyu and vinegar. And when you bite into it, it's like, just this burst of, ocean. It's so ono. Now you hardly ever find it. In fact, one of the surveys this morning, they didn't find, where it used to grow before, they didn't find any outside of Hāna. So, sad. So, but that's why, we need to raise the awareness and get people interested so that they watch. They can watch what's happening to the limu, take notice of the either climate change or what's happening on the land, because everything that happens on the land will affect the ocean. My hope is that we spark some interest in the makua, so that they can realize that, hey, as a Hawaiian, you need to take care of this ike Hawaii that has been passed on by our kupuna. You need to take care of that ike and pass it down.
The University of Hawaii's Sea Grant College program focused on Hawaii's coasts and its communities through sustainable development, safe seafood supply, sustainable coastal tourism, hazard resilience, and healthy coastal ecosystems. Hawaii's Sea Grant.
You're watching Voice of the Sea. We're at the Hāna Limu Festival talking with Uncle Wally Ito.
Limu is important to Hawaiians and Hawaiian culture. To lose the knowledge about limu is to take away from that culture. And so we try to perpetuate that knowledge but limu is also important to the marine environment. We push that idea, we create that awareness to get people to malama the limu.
If limu is an indicator of the health of the ecosystem, then what should we see in a healthy ecosystem that has healthy limu?
In scientific terms, we're looking at abundance and diversity. Yeah, high diversity is good. High abundance can be good, but we prefer diversity. We typically don't want to see any limu dominating an area. We like to see that diversity. In order to know and understand abundance and diversity, it's a matter of kilo, observation. And it's doing the kilo, somebody has to do the work of going to the shoreline often, because limu changes real quick. Yeah, from week to week we can see changes, and to observe those changes over a long period of time, that's what we need more and more people to do, to understand. And once you have that understanding of what the limu is supposed to be doing over time in your area, then you can see threats. You can see when things are not doing well. Hopefully we can also see when things are doing well.
You are working on the Limu Eater's book. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
The Limu Eater by Heather Fortner was published, originally published in the late 1970s. When I first came across this book, looking at the title, I thought it was just a recipe book, which it is. It has a lot of recipes from all the different ethnic groups in Hawaii and how they use the different kinds of limu. But in describing and talking about the limu used in recipes, Heather Fortner did a lot of research on the cultural uses, other cultural uses, and some of the history of the limu. That's what's most valuable for me. It's a way to pass on the cultural knowledge. Yeah? Typically, the limu is not cooked. The only limu that I know that was cooked in the past is the aki-aki. And aki-aki, I don't know if you saw the aki-aki.
Yeah,
you felt
so big,
yeah.
and it was like hanging down and making like a forest.
Yeah, but when you try picking it, it's hard to break. And if you take one branch and you try to break it, it's really hard. So it's not something that you really, if you put it in your mouth and you chew it, you're gonna have to keep chewing. As far as cooking limu, this is the only limu that I know of that Hawaiians used to put in the imu with chicken and with pork. And what that does is breaks down the aki-aki, the limu, so that it's soft enough to eat. But it also extracts the gravy, the agar-agar and the carrageenan, and which creates a nice gelatin gravy. Most other limu is best eaten just fresh like that. And the preparation of different ethnic groups is, adding sauces, adding vinegar, shoyu, other condiments to help to bring out the flavor of the limu.
Can you tell me about some of the different tastes of the limu?
Taste is hard to describe. What I can tell you is that there's a long list of limu, 500 plus different species of limu in Hawaii. There's a short list, I don't want to put a number on it, but there's a short list of limu that tastes really good, real strong flavor. Actually, I shouldn't say really good. There's a short list of limu that have a really strong flavor. And some people, don't like that certain flavors. Most of the limu are like kind of bland, you can eat it and it's okay, I can eat it, but not something that I would crave. There's also on the other end of the spectrum, there's a short list of limu that tastes really bad.
Oh.
That's why you need to kilo, you need to go around and you need to know which limu is good, which limu is bad, which limu is, is okay. Yeah. And that's what we hope to teach and to share and to pass on. When somebody gives you something, it's your responsibility to share back. Yeah, I've been spearfishing since I was like 8 or 9 years old. So that puts me in the water as a spear fisherman for over 60 years. There were a couple species of limu that I know my mom liked. So if I find that, then I would gather that and bring it home for her to prepare. I slowly saw the decline of a fishery. We used to be able to bring home like plenty fish to eat, and to the point where we're struggling to bring home enough fish to eat. I went back to school at age 51. I went back to school to finish up a college degree that I started like many years before. in my classes, ecology classes, marine biology classes, I learn about ecosystems and food chains, and learn that the base of any food chain are the primary producers. And on land, the primary producers are plants and grasses. Primary producers take energy from the sun, and they create energy that the next trophic level feeds on and to get their energy. So herbivores to carnivores to, so on up the chain. Researchers and government officials were looking at the problem from the top down. Put more fish in the ocean, protect the fish here. But, for me, learning what I learned, we need to look at the problem from the bottom up. If we can find out why we're losing our limu and bring back our limu to the abundance that we saw, in the past, then we don't have to worry about the fish. Herbivores will automatically have plenty to feed on. You get plenty of food, you tend to reproduce more, and you get more herbivores, and carnivores got more to eat, so on up the chain. Yeah. So it all, the entire nearshore marine ecosystem is the restoration of it is based on limu.
We are looking for a few heroes, mentors, trailblazers, innovators, a passion to change lives, spark curiosity, open hearts, and awaken minds, help students answer the question, who am I? This could be your calling, but this is no job. It's the journey of a lifetime. Be a hero. Be a teacher.
You're watching Voice of the Sea. We're at the Hāna Limu Festival, talking story with Limu Hui Coordinator Malia Heimuli and former co-director of KUA, Miwa Tamanaha.
Whenever we bring limu out to share with folks, there's so much excitement and interest. More people are telling limu stories around their tables. There are more and more limu people. And that's really exciting, because when we have more and more limu people, our care for limu will grow, and then we will have more limu, more diversity, more abundance, and more balance and health.
Are there other practices that we should keep in mind so that we don't over-harvest the limu?
A common thing that we talk about is to pinch, not pull. So you don't want to take the hold fast. The hold fast is kind of the root of the limu, and so if you pinch, it'll grow back. But if you pull the whole thing out, then it's not going to grow back. I think another important thing to think about is, what is your purpose? When you come to a place with the intention to gather limu, what is your relationship to that place? What is your intention in taking that limu? What do you know about that limu? Who are you? What teachers are you responsible to in taking limu? So I think those are other things to think about in terms of showing up with your full awareness of what your intention and relationship is before you take. To not take without really knowing that what you gather will be replaced. Every place and different people have different practices. So even when we say to pinch, not to scrape, not everybody follows that. And if you understand what you're doing, that may be appropriate for your practice in your place.
You're the Limu Hui Coordinator?
Yes.
And what does that mean?
Limu Hui Coordinator means I gather Limu Hui practitioners across the Kuaʻāina, and we have an annual gathering where we discuss things that we want for Limu, things that we want for all the Limu Hui practitioners that are across the Kuaʻāina, how they can advocate for their places, address some issues that may be happening in their places, and how we can help with that.
Do you have a favorite limu?
I do have a favorite limu. It's lipepe. That is one that really changed my whole thinking about what limu could taste like. To me, it tastes like a sweet oyster, salty kind of flavor. And, you know, I usually have had the ogo or the pickle ogo, but nothing like lipepe. That's my favorite. My mother grew up eating limu kohu. However, we didn't do that practice of picking or gathering limu kohu. And so I don't really have the ono for limu kohu. I'll eat it, but it's very, very bitter to me. But that taste is a memorable taste for my mother and my grandmother. And they remember, like, oh yeah, I remember we would go with sickles on the papa and we would collect the limu kohu and make balls and we'd eat it at dinner. People just need to ask their kupuna and maybe stories like that will come out and you can figure out what papa they went on and what methods they used and what was different about the landscape at that time that maybe the limu was thriving, and could we get back to that state of how our land uses are and get back to this abundance of limu. Who knows? So just gotta ask.
And do you see limu as kind of one of those things that can help people from all different areas come together?
I definitely see limu as a way to connect people, and not just people who are gathering limu or who are actively gathering limu. I see that as a connector of people who are taking care of our mauka areas. You know, people who are planting native forests, people that are protecting our native wetlands. Limu is that connector, not just in the ocean, but from Mauka to Makai.
What are some of the things that we can share with people who come to the shoreline and they want to be respectful of the limu and help it to be healthy?
One thing that they can do is really educate themselves about our beaches and how really special our ecosystems are there. They can malama the area to pick up rubbish. If they see like fishing line in some of the rocks, pick that out. Every time you go to the beach, there should be some sort of give back. And that give back can be in knowing where your places are, knowing the things that are there, but also malamaing, doing some malama aina work.
As we're revitalizing people's love for limu, how do we ensure that there's enough limu for people to get to taste it?
One thing is advocacy. We should advocate for the growing of limu on a mass scale, but in a pono way, if we can. We should support the innovation that could come from that. I think another way is to just keep educating people. It's that spiritual connection too that will really contribute the growth of limu. I think the abundance of limu, when we talk story about it, when we sing about it, when we dance about it, that also contributes to the abundance of limu in our coastlines.
Limu is a critical component of our nearshore ecosystems and an important food and cultural resource. You can help protect and restore native limu populations by joining a hui in your area to replant limu and care for the local land and waters. Purchase the reprint of the Limu Eater book through Hawaii Sea Grant or Native Books Hawaii. Learn more at voiceofthesea.org. Follow us on social media at Voice of the Sea TV. Mahalo for watching Voice of the Sea. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is the dynamic curriculum developed by the University of Hawaii's Curriculum Research and Development Group. The award-winning Fluid Earth and Living Ocean textbooks are now interactive and online. New activities, updated content, and a teacher community. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is now freely available. Find out more at exploringourfluidearth.org.